What if I told you that your morning back pain, your wisdom teeth problems, and even your tendency to choke on food are all evolutionary gifts that were never supposed to happen? Right now, as you're watching this, your body is carrying the evidence of evolution's most spectacular failures. Mistakes so profound that they've been quietly sabotaging human civilization for thousands of years. Scientists have been reluctant to discuss these evolutionary blunders because they shatter our perception of natural selection as this perfect, intelligent designer. But the truth is far stranger. Evolution didn't create the optimal human. It created a walking contradiction that somehow managed to build pyramids, split atoms, and reach the moon, despite being fundamentally broken. Your spine wasn't designed for walking upright. Your brain is too big for your skull. Your throat is a death trap waiting to happen. And that's just the beginning. Your spine is essentially a tower of 33 blocks stacked on top of each other, held together by muscles and ligaments, trying to support a weight it was never designed to carry. When our ancestors decided to stand upright around 6 million years ago, they took what was essentially a horizontal suspension bridge and turned it vertical. The results have been catastrophic. Every morning when you wake up with that familiar ache in your lower back, you're experiencing the direct consequence of evolution's most questionable engineering decision. The human spine has 4 curves: cervical, thoracic, lumbar, and sacral, that create an S-shaped structure. These curves developed as a compromise solution to keep us balanced while upright, but they've turned our backs into a mechanical nightmare. The lumbar region, your lower back, bears the brunt of this evolutionary mistake. Unlike our 4-legged relatives whose spines are perfectly supported by muscles running along their entire length, humans concentrate most of their body weight on just 5 lumbar vertebrae. It's like trying to balance a bowling ball on a stack of donuts while doing jumping jacks. Archaeological evidence shows that even our earliest upright ancestors suffered from spinal problems. Fossilized remains of Homo erectus show clear signs of degenerative disc disease, compression fractures, and arthritis, conditions that are virtually unknown in our quadrupedal relatives. These weren't old age problems either. Young adults in ancient civilizations regularly suffered from debilitating back pain that affected their ability to hunt, farm, and fight. The impact of our flawed spines on human civilization has been profound and largely overlooked by historians. Ancient Egyptian medical papyri contain dozens of treatments for back pain, indicating it was a major health concern even 4,000 years ago. Workers building the pyramids frequently suffered from severe spinal injuries, and hieroglyphic records show that back problems were so common they had specific gods dedicated to spinal health. Roman legions lost more soldiers to back injuries than to enemy weapons in many campaigns. Military historians have found evidence that Roman military tactics had to be modified because soldiers carrying heavy equipment over long distances would become combat ineffective due to spinal problems before they even reached the battlefield. The famous Roman roads weren't just built for efficient travel. They were essential for reducing the back strain on marching armies. Medieval societies developed entire professions around managing spinal problems. The rise of monasteries wasn't just about religious devotion. These institutions became centers for treating chronic back pain through rest, herbal remedies, and primitive spinal manipulation. The economic impact was staggering. Kingdoms regularly lost significant portions of their workforce to back-related disabilities, affecting everything from agricultural output to military strength. The feudal system itself was partly a response to spinal limitations. Lords needed large numbers of peasants not just for economic reasons, but because a significant percentage of the working population would be temporarily or permanently disabled by back problems at any given time. Medieval court records show that back injuries were the leading cause of disputes over work obligations and land tenure. Today, spinal problems affect over 80% of adults at some point in their lives, making it the leading cause of disability worldwide. The economic impact is staggering. Back pain costs the global economy over $100 billion annually in healthcare expenses and lost productivity. In the United States alone, more people miss work due to back problems than all other health issues combined. Modern life has made our evolutionary spine defect even worse. We've gone from the physical demands that our poorly designed spines could barely handle to sedentary lifestyles that they're completely unprepared for. Sitting for extended periods compresses the lumbar discs with forces up to 300% greater than standing. Your office chair is slowly destroying what evolution already weakened. The irony is that our spinal problems have actually accelerated human innovation. The search for pain relief has driven advances in medicine, pharmacology, and surgical techniques. The invention of ergonomic furniture, the development of physical therapy, and even the design of modern automobiles have all been influenced by our need to accommodate our fundamentally flawed spines. Sleep technology has evolved primarily to address spinal issues. The modern mattress industry exists because humans need artificial support for their backs during rest, something no other vertebrate requires. We've had to engineer solutions for a problem that evolution created when it decided to make us stand upright. But here's the strangest part. Despite all these problems, our upright posture gave us the free hands that allowed us to manipulate tools, which led to brain development, which eventually allowed us to understand why our backs hurt in the first place. Evolution created a problem, and then gave us the intelligence to solve it, but only after millions of years of suffering. While our spines were busy betraying us, evolution was cooking up an even more dangerous experiment, cramming an oversized brain into a skull that was never meant to contain it. Human babies are born with brains that are only 25% of their adult size, yet childbirth is still one of the most dangerous experiences in the natural world. This isn't coincidence. It's the result of an evolutionary arms race between brain size and pelvic anatomy that nearly drove our species extinct. The human brain tripled in size over the past 2 million years, growing from about 400 cubic centimeters in early hominins to nearly 1,400 cubic centimeters in modern humans. But our skulls and pelvises didn't get the memo. The female pelvis had to remain narrow enough for efficient bipedal locomotion, creating what scientists call the obstetric dilemma, a biological catch-22, where bigger brains meant more dangerous births. Archaeological evidence from ancient burial sites tells a horrifying story. Maternal mortality rates in prehistoric societies reached as high as 50% during childbirth. Entire bloodlines ended because women couldn't survive delivering babies with increasingly large heads. Fossilized remains show evidence of obstructed labor, with both mother and child dying in the process. Some ancient sites contain mass graves of women who died in childbirth, suggesting that certain periods saw catastrophic spikes in maternal death rates. But here's where it gets truly bizarre. Evolution's solution wasn't to make our skulls bigger or our pelvises wider. Instead, it made human babies essentially premature by mammalian standards. If human babies were born at the same developmental stage as other primates, pregnancy would last 18 to 21 months. Evolution chose to make childbirth survivable by making human infants completely helpless for an extended period after birth. This evolutionary compromise, premature birth to accommodate large brains, fundamentally shaped human civilization in ways we're only beginning to understand. Human babies require intensive care for years, not months like other mammals. This created the first true extended families, the foundation of all human social structures. Ancient Mesopotamian tablets contain detailed records of childcare practices that reveal how our prolonged infancy influenced the development of agriculture and permanent settlements. Hunter-gatherer societies could only support a limited number of helpless infants while remaining mobile. The need to care for multiple dependent children for extended periods forced humans to stay in one place, leading to the agricultural revolution, not just for food security, but for child safety. The extended human childhood created by our oversized brains also produced something unprecedented in the animal kingdom: the grandmother effect. Human females are among the only mammals that live decades beyond their reproductive years. This wasn't an evolutionary accident. Grandmothers became essential for child survival. Archaeological analysis of ancient settlements shows that communities with higher numbers of postmenopausal women had significantly better child survival rates. Religious and spiritual practices across cultures developed around the dangers of childbirth and infant mortality. Ancient Egyptian, Greek, and Roman civilizations had numerous deities specifically dedicated to protecting mothers and children during birth. The prevalence of fertility goddesses and protective rituals wasn't just about ensuring pregnancy, it was about surviving it. The social implications were staggering. Women became the most valuable members of society, not just for reproduction, but because they possessed the knowledge and skills needed to keep oversized brain babies alive. This led to the development of midwifery, early medicine, and the accumulation of practical knowledge that would eventually become the foundation of scientific thinking. Today, despite all our medical advances, childbirth remains uniquely dangerous for humans compared to other mammals. Cesarean section rates have skyrocketed globally, not just due to medical intervention, but because our heads are still too big for natural birth in many cases. In some developed countries, over 30% of births require surgical intervention, a rate that would be evolutionary suicide without modern medicine. Our oversized brains created another problem that continues to plague modern society: the extended learning period required to make use of all that neural capacity. Human children don't reach full brain maturity until their mid-20s, creating an unprecedented educational burden on society. No other species invests decades of resources into offspring development, yet human civilization requires it for survival. The irony is profound. Our brains became so large and complex that they require decades of training to function properly in the societies they enabled us to create. We need years of schooling to learn to read, do mathematics, and think abstractly, all because evolution gave us processing power that exceeds our natural programming capacity. Modern technology has revealed another consequence of our brain-skull mismatch. Brain injuries from seemingly minor impacts cause more lasting damage in humans than in other mammals because our brains essentially float in a space that's barely adequate to contain them. The rise in concussion awareness in sports isn't just about better medical knowledge. It's about recognizing that human brains are poorly protected by our evolutionary skull design. Perhaps most fascinating is how our oversized brains have allowed us to understand their own evolutionary mistakes. We can now predict and prevent many of the complications that nearly drove our species extinct. We've developed prenatal care, surgical techniques, and educational systems specifically to overcome the problems created by having brains too big for our bodies. Yet we continue to face new challenges. Modern life requires cognitive abilities, Our brains evolved long before civilization existed. We suffer from anxiety disorders partly because brains designed to detect immediate physical threats now have to process abstract social and economic pressures. Depression rates correlate with the mismatch between what our ancient brains expect from life and what modern civilization provides. Evolution gave us the intelligence to recognize these problems, but we're still living with the consequences of a brain that evolution squeezed into an inadequate skull through a birth canal that was never designed for the job. Every time you swallow, you're performing one of the most dangerous acts in the animal kingdom, and you probably don't even realize it. Humans are virtually the only species that regularly chokes to death on their own food. This isn't because we're careless eaters or because we talk while eating. It's because evolution made a catastrophic design decision when it gave us the ability to speak. In most mammals, the larynx sits high in the throat, creating two separate pathways, one for air and one for food. This design makes choking nearly impossible. But humans have a descended larynx, positioned much lower in the throat, which creates a shared space where air and food pathways intersect. This anatomical feature, which allows us to produce complex speech sounds, has turned our throats into potential death traps. The statistics are sobering. Choking kills approximately 5,000 people annually in the United States alone, making it the fourth leading cause of unintentional death. But these numbers only capture fatal incidents. Millions more people experience near-choking episodes each year. Archaeological evidence suggests this has been a persistent problem throughout human history, with ancient medical texts from China, Egypt, and Greece, all describing choking incidents and primitive intervention techniques. What makes this evolutionary trade-off particularly cruel is that the descended larynx doesn't just create choking risks, it also makes us more vulnerable to sleep apnea, acid reflux, and respiratory infections. The same anatomical changes that gave us language also compromised our basic survival functions. We literally traded breathing efficiency for the ability to complain about it. But the descended larynx reveals something profound about evolution's priorities. The ability to communicate complex ideas was so advantageous for human survival that natural selection accepted a design that kills thousands of us annually. This suggests that language and social cooperation were more crucial to our species' success than individual survival, a trade-off that shaped the development of human civilization. The constant threat of choking profoundly influenced human culture and social development in ways that most people never consider. Ancient dining customs weren't just about etiquette. They were survival strategies developed over millennia to reduce choking risks during communal meals. Archaeological analysis of ancient cooking methods reveals that nearly every early civilization developed techniques for making food safer to swallow. The popularity of soups, stews, and porridges across cultures wasn't just about nutrition or taste. These preparations reduced choking risks by breaking down food into manageable pieces. The mortar and pestle, one of humanity's oldest tools, was essentially our first anti-choking device. Ancient Greek symposiums, Roman banquets, and medieval feasts all developed elaborate protocols around eating and drinking that served dual purposes: social bonding and choking prevention. The practice of eating slowly, engaging in conversation between bites, and consuming wine with meals weren't just cultural preferences. These behaviors naturally reduced eating pace and encouraged smaller bites, significantly decreasing choking risks. Religious dietary laws across cultures show evidence of choking prevention strategies disguised as spiritual practices. The Jewish kashrut laws, requiring thorough cooking of certain foods, Islamic halal preparation methods, and Hindu vegetarian practices all reduce foods most likely to cause choking. These weren't arbitrary religious restrictions. They were survival wisdom encoded in cultural practices. Medieval monastery records provide fascinating insights into how choking awareness shaped social structures. Monastic dining rules requiring silence during meals weren't just about spiritual contemplation. They prevented the dangerous combination of talking and eating that increases choking risk. The position of the infirmarian, a monk responsible for treating choking incidents, became so important that these individuals often held significant political power within religious communities. The development of table manners across civilizations reveals a consistent pattern of behaviors that minimize choking risks. The use of cutting utensils to create smaller pieces, the practice of chewing thoroughly before swallowing, and even the social taboo against eating too quickly all served as cultural adaptations to our flawed throat anatomy. Modern life has made our evolutionary throat defect significantly more dangerous. Processed foods, irregular eating schedules, and distracted dining have created a perfect storm for choking incidents. Fast food culture encourages rapid consumption of foods specifically designed to be eaten quickly, exactly the opposite of what our descended larynx anatomy requires for safe swallowing. The rise in choking incidents among elderly populations reveals another consequence of our throat design flaw. As we age, the muscles controlling swallowing weaken, but our throat anatomy remains the same compromised structure that evolution gave us for speech. Nursing homes and assisted living facilities have had to develop entire protocols around safe eating, essentially reverting to the careful food preparation and supervised dining practices of our ancestors. Children face unique risks because their descended larynx continues developing until adolescence, creating a period of particular vulnerability. Pediatric choking incidents have driven innovations in food design, child safety regulations, and emergency response training. The existence of specialized children's hospitals with choking treatment protocols represents a massive allocation of medical resources to address what is essentially an evolutionary design flaw. Emergency medicine has evolved sophisticated interventions specifically for choking. The Heimlich maneuver, emergency tracheotomies, and advanced airway management techniques. No other species requires such interventions for eating, highlighting how unusual our throat anatomy is in the animal kingdom. Emergency medical training programs spend significant time on choking response because it's such a uniquely human problem. The food industry has responded to our flawed anatomy by developing products specifically designed to reduce choking risks. From specially designed infant foods to texture-modified meals for elderly populations, billions of dollars are spent annually accommodating our dangerous throat design. Food packaging now includes choking warnings, and restaurants train staff in emergency response procedures. Perhaps most ironically, our ability to speak, the evolutionary advantage that created our choking vulnerability, has enabled us to develop communication systems for preventing and treating choking incidents. We use language to teach choking prevention, coordinate emergency responses, and share medical knowledge across cultures. Evolution gave us a problem and the tools to solve it, but only after accepting thousands of years of preventable deaths. The throat that enables human communication continues to be a source of both our greatest achievements and our most mundane dangers. Every conversation, every song, every declaration of love is made possible by an anatomical feature that could kill us at our next meal. Your wisdom teeth hurt because your ancestors' faces were literally shrinking. Over the past 100,000 years, human jaws have decreased in size by approximately 10 to 12%, but we still have the same number of teeth trying to fit into that reduced space. This isn't just an inconvenience. It's an evolutionary disaster that has shaped human civilization in ways that would shock you. Our distant ancestors had large, protruding jaws with plenty of room for all 32 teeth, including wisdom teeth that were actually useful for grinding tough, fibrous foods. But as humans developed cooking techniques and began processing food externally, rather than relying solely on powerful jaw muscles, our facial anatomy began to change. Smaller jaws became advantageous. They required less muscle mass, used less energy, and allowed for more efficient heat dissipation from the brain. Archaeological evidence shows this jaw reduction happening in real time. Skulls from 50,000 years ago show significantly larger jaw capacity than those from 10,000 years ago. But here's the evolutionary oversight. Our tooth count remained constant, while our jaw space diminished. It's like trying to fit a full-size piano keyboard into a child's toy piano case. The result has been catastrophic for human dental health throughout history. Ancient skulls show evidence of severe dental crowding, impacted teeth, and jaw deformities that would have caused excruciating pain and difficulty eating. Many early human remains show signs of dental abscesses, infections, and tooth loss that occurred in young adults. Problems that were essentially evolutionary inevitabilities rather than poor hygiene. But this dental disaster created an unexpected evolutionary pressure that would drive one of humanity's most important innovations. As natural teeth became increasingly unreliable due to crowding and impaction, humans were forced to develop external food processing techniques to make eating possible with compromised dental function. The invention of cooking, fermentation, and food preparation wasn't just about taste or nutrition. It was about survival, with increasingly dysfunctional mouths. The connection between our shrinking jaws and the rise of agriculture is one of history's most overlooked causal relationships. As dental crowding made it increasingly difficult to process tough, fibrous foods, humans were forced to seek out softer, more easily digestible options. This dietary pressure contributed to the domestication of grains, legumes, and other crops that could be processed into soft, nutritious foods. Archaeological analysis of ancient settlements reveals a clear pattern. Communities with higher rates of dental problems developed more sophisticated food processing technologies. The invention of grinding stones, fermentation vessels, and cooking implements directly correlates with populations showing evidence of severe dental crowding and tooth loss. Our failing teeth literally drove technological innovation. Ancient Egyptian society provides a fascinating case study in how dental problems shaped civilization. Mummies from all social classes show evidence of severe dental wear, abscesses, and tooth loss. But the wealthy had access to sophisticated dental treatments, including gold crowns, bridges, and even primitive implants made from ivory and precious metals. The development of ancient dentistry wasn't just medical advancement. It was social necessity, driven by evolutionary dental failure. The rise of social hierarchies was partly determined by dental health. Those who could afford processed foods and dental treatments maintained better nutrition and appeared more attractive, leading to reproductive advantages. Ancient art consistently shows the wealthy with full sets of teeth while depicting common people with missing or damaged teeth. Dental health became a marker of social status, influencing marriage patterns, political power, and economic opportunities. Military history reveals how dental problems affected warfare throughout the ages. Roman legions had to modify field rations because many soldiers couldn't chew standard military foods due to dental problems. Medieval armies carried supplies of soft bread, porridge, and wine, not just for sustenance, but because significant portions of fighting forces had compromised dental function due to jaw crowding and tooth loss. The spice trade that connected civilizations and drove exploration was partly motivated by the need to make soft, processed foods palatable. Spices allowed cultures to create flavorful dishes from the grains, legumes, and processed foods that people with dental problems could actually eat. The economic systems that built empires were partially responses to our evolutionary dental failures. Today's orthodontic industry exists entirely because evolution gave us jaws too small for our teeth. Billions of dollars are spent annually on braces, jaw surgery, wisdom tooth extractions, and dental corrections that address problems created by our shrinking facial anatomy. Modern dentistry is essentially an elaborate system for managing evolutionary design flaws. Wisdom tooth extraction has become a rite of passage in developed countries, with over 90% of people requiring removal of at least one wisdom tooth. This procedure, performed millions of times annually worldwide, addresses a problem that doesn't exist in any other mammalian species. We've industrialized the surgical correction of an evolutionary mistake. The hidden social impacts of dental crowding continue to shape modern society. Access to orthodontic treatment creates advantages in employment, relationships, and social mobility that echo the dental hierarchies of ancient civilizations. Studies consistently show that people with straight teeth earn more, are perceived as more intelligent, and have better social outcomes, advantages based entirely on the ability to afford correction of evolutionary dental problems. Sleep apnea, a condition affecting millions globally, is partly caused by our shrinking jaws creating inadequate space for tongues and airways. The same evolutionary process that created dental crowding also compromised breathing passages, leading to sleep disorders that affect cognitive function, cardiovascular health, and quality of life. Modern sleep medicine spends enormous resources treating problems rooted in jaw evolution. Food manufacturing has adapted to accommodate our dental limitations. Processed foods, while often criticized for health reasons, serve a crucial function for populations with compromised dental health. The texture modification, pre-processing, and softening techniques used in modern food production address real needs created by our evolutionary dental failures. Perhaps most remarkably, our dental problems have driven innovations that benefit all humanity. Food science advances, surgical techniques, materials engineering, and even 3D printing technology have all been accelerated by the need to address dental issues. Evolution created a problem with our teeth, but solving it has advanced human knowledge and technology in unexpected ways. The irony is complete. Our shrinking jaws, which initially seemed like an evolutionary advantage, created dental problems that forced us to develop agriculture, cooking, social hierarchies, and advanced technology. Our teeth problems didn't just build civilizations, they made us human. Your eyes are evolutionary relics perfectly designed for a world that vanished 10,000 years ago. While we celebrate human vision as one of our greatest assets, the truth is far more unsettling. Our visual system is fundamentally mismatched to the environment we've created, leading to problems that affect billions of people worldwide and continue to shape how we design everything from cities to computer screens. Human eyes evolved for life as hunter-gatherers on African savannas, where survival depended on spotting predators at long distances, tracking moving prey, and navigating varied terrain under natural lighting conditions. Our visual system excels at these tasks. We can detect motion at incredible distances, distinguish thousands of color variations, and maintain sharp focus across vast landscapes. But evolution never prepared us for reading small text, staring at screens, or functioning under artificial lighting. The evidence of our visual mismatch is everywhere. Myopia, or nearsightedness, affects over 2.6 billion people globally and is increasing at alarming rates. In some East Asian countries, myopia rates among young adults exceed 90%. This isn't genetic drift, it's environmental mismatch. Our eyes, designed to focus primarily on distant objects while scanning for threats and opportunities, are breaking down under the constant demand for close-up focus required by modern life. Archaeological evidence suggests that prehistoric humans rarely suffered from vision problems that plague modern societies. Ancient skulls show eye socket formations consistent with healthy vision, and there's virtually no evidence of the refractive errors that require modern corrective lenses. Our ancestors lived their entire lives using their visual systems exactly as evolution designed them, looking far more often than near, spending time in natural light, and rarely engaging in prolonged close-up visual tasks. But our flawed vision system also gave us unexpected advantages. The same visual processing that makes us vulnerable to eye strain also enabled us to create art, recognize patterns, and develop symbolic thinking. Our eyes can perceive subtle variations in facial expressions, body language, and environmental changes that became the foundation for complex social interactions and cultural development. Human civilization has been continuously shaped by the limitations and quirks of our visual system in ways that most people never realize. Ancient architecture, urban planning, and artistic traditions all developed as accommodations to how our eyes actually work, rather than how we think they should work. The great civilizations of antiquity understood our visual limitations intuitively. Egyptian pyramids, Greek temples, and Roman amphitheaters all employed optical illusions and visual tricks to accommodate the ways our eyes perceive distance, proportion, and perspective. The Parthenon's columns bulge slightly in the middle and lean inward because Greek architects knew that our visual system would otherwise make them appear concave and tilted outward. Ancient lighting systems reveal how civilizations adapted to our eyes' specific light sensitivity patterns. Oil lamps, candles, and torches weren't just light sources. They were carefully designed to produce wavelengths and intensities that worked optimally with human vision. The warm, flickering light that we still find comforting in fireplaces and candlelit restaurants matches the lighting conditions our eyes evolved to handle most effectively. Medieval manuscript illumination developed elaborate techniques for making text readable under the poor lighting conditions that our eyes struggle with. The use of gold leaf, bright colors, and large initial letters wasn't just decorative. These techniques were visual accessibility features designed to help eyes strained by inadequate light and poor viewing conditions. Monastic scriptoriums were carefully positioned and designed around the limited hours of natural light that made detailed visual work possible. Navigation and exploration were revolutionized by understanding human visual limitations. The development of lighthouses, maritime signaling systems, and cartographic techniques all emerged from recognizing what our eyes can and cannot reliably perceive at distance. The spacing of Roman mile markers, the design of medieval road signs, and even the development of standardized currency all reflected adaptations to human visual capabilities and limitations. Urban planning evolved around our visual needs and constraints. The width of medieval streets wasn't arbitrary. It was determined by the distance at which human eyes can reliably recognize faces and assess threats. Public squares and marketplaces were sized according to the maximum distances at which people can effectively observe social interactions and commercial activities. Our cities are built to accommodate the visual range that evolution gave us. Modern technology has created visual demands that our evolutionary eye design is completely unprepared to handle. We're the first generation in human history to spend the majority of our waking hours focusing on objects less than arm's length away, under artificial lighting, while staring at glowing screens. The results have been catastrophic for human vision. Digital eye strain affects over 70% of adults who use computers regularly, causing headaches, blurred vision, and sleep disruption. This isn't poor design or user error. It's the inevitable result of using eyes evolved for scanning horizons to stare at pixels. Computer screens emit blue light wavelengths that our visual system interprets as midday sun, disrupting circadian rhythms and causing the sleep problems that plague modern society. The myopia epidemic sweeping the globe is directly linked to our visual environment mismatch. Children who spend more time outdoors have significantly lower rates of nearsightedness, not because of exercise or fresh air, but because distant focusing exercises the visual muscles in ways that close-up work cannot. Our eyes literally change shape when deprived of the long-distance viewing they evolved to perform. Modern lighting systems work against our visual biology in subtle but profound ways. LED lights, fluorescent bulbs, and screen backlighting all produce light spectra that differ significantly from natural sunlight and firelight. These artificial light sources can trigger migraines, worsen depression, and contribute to visual fatigue because they don't match the wavelengths our eyes evolved to process efficiently. But our visual limitations have also driven remarkable innovations. The entire field of user interface design exists because we need to accommodate how human eyes actually perceive information. Color theory, typography, and graphic design principles all emerge from understanding our visual system's evolutionary constraints and capabilities. Virtual reality, augmented reality, and advanced display technologies are essentially elaborate workarounds for our visual system's limitations. We're developing billion-dollar industries to trick eyes that evolved for African savannas into perceiving digital worlds that don't exist. The future of human-computer interaction is being shaped entirely by the need to accommodate our evolutionary visual legacy. Perhaps most fascinatingly, we're now using our flawed visual system to understand and correct its own limitations. Vision science, ophthalmology, and optical engineering all depend on visual observations made by eyes that we know are imperfect. We're seeing our way toward solutions to problems created by how we see, using the very sensory system that created those problems in the first place. So here we are, walking, talking collections of evolutionary compromises and outright mistakes, somehow having built a civilization that reaches to the stars despite bodies that are fundamentally broken. Your aching back, your crowded teeth, your tendency to choke on lunch, and your need for reading glasses aren't personal failings. They're the shared inheritance of a species that evolution patched together with whatever materials were available, creating something that works just well enough to survive, but poorly enough to keep life interesting. The most remarkable thing isn't that evolution made these mistakes. It's that we've managed to thrive despite them. Every skyscraper built by humans with bad backs, every symphony composed by people with throats that could kill them at any moment, every scientific breakthrough made by researchers wearing glasses to correct their flawed vision, represents a triumph of human ingenuity over evolutionary limitations. We've taken evolution's rough draft and spent thousands of years editing it through technology, medicine, and social innovation. We've built entire industries around fixing problems that evolution created. We've designed furniture for our broken spines, developed surgery for our oversized brains, created emergency procedures for our dangerous throats, invented orthodontics for our crowded teeth, and crafted lenses for our outdated eyes. But perhaps most importantly, We've learned to see these flaws not as failures, but as the price we paid for becoming human. Our spines hurt because we stood up to use tools. Our births are dangerous because we developed the intelligence to eventually make them safer. We choke on food because we gained the ability to speak about it. Our teeth don't fit because we learned to process food externally. Our eyes strain because we created visual wonders they were never meant to see. Evolution didn't want us to know this because there's nothing to know. Evolution doesn't want anything. It's a blind process that stumbles forward through trial and error, keeping what works just well enough to reproduce and discarding what doesn't. We're not the perfect end product of intelligent design. We're the jury-rigged survivors of an ongoing experiment that's still running. The next time your back aches, your wisdom teeth throb, or you need to squint at your phone screen, remember that you're experiencing the shared human condition, living in a body that evolution cobbled together from spare parts, held together by hope and stubbornness. What other evolutionary mistakes do you think shaped human history in ways we haven't recognized yet? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if this video made you appreciate just how wonderfully broken we all are, subscribe to Weird Histories for more mind-blowing stories that reveal the strange truth about our past. After all, understanding how we got this far despite our flaws might just help us figure out where we're going next.